Nothing is a waste of time if you use the experience wisely. And that's by Auguste Rodin, the sculptor. And so today I'm going to share things with you that I've learned from experience or other people's experiences and just like random tips. I was trying to think of a topic and I decided I'm going to do all the topics. So I'm just going to get started. First of all, general tips. Number one, get help as soon as you can. Even if it's just a housekeeper, not just, I really value housekeepers, but taking that off your shoulders or the shoulders of your spouse and having that time to do things that can bring you work or schedule more clients or more sales. On the average, we can be $200-300 an hour. So for somebody that's going to charge us $25 to $50 an hour, it's a savings. Also, when I first, well, for many years, I had assistants that only came 2, 3 days a week, maybe 2, 3 hours. And they would do things that just I didn't have to do, like data entry, client, I fill out a form. Yes, there are CRMs that can help you with that, but someone has to put that info in there when you're having a conversation. I did my own framing. I made a lot of income adding framing after the sale, not at the time of the sale. And so they'd open boxes and they'd learn how to put the photographs in the frames and so forth. And just whatever I needed, running errands, doing research, things like that. So get help and also get help by hiring a coach as soon as you can. And a lot of people are like, well, when I can afford it, I'll do it. But hiring the coach is what helps you afford it. If you're trying to bake a chocolate cake and you don't have the recipe and you're not going to hire someone to or sell you the recipe until you've made the cake, you'll never make that chocolate cake. So the sooner you get help running your business, learning how to sell, pricing for profit, marketing, and just support, it's not always about what you learn from a coach, but the support you get that helps you in your own ideas. So I highly recommend you do that. You find the money somewhere legal, but somewhere. All right, let's see. What is my next thing? Oh, and then I have some tips on money. And there's 1,000, but it's about bank accounts. So I highly recommend you open 3 bank accounts in the same bank. Three. So you have a checking account and 2 savings accounts. Checking account is for your day-to-day bills, like when you have a sale and you've got lab bills to pay, comes out of that. Um, the savings account is it's good to have savings. Oh, and we also pay ourselves out of the checking account. So savings account is so that if you think I need that new lens or I need to take that course or something, you can see that you have money that you've accumulated for that. And the third is taxes. Many times until I started this, I would think I had a lot of money, and then sales tax time would come around, if I was especially during wedding season where there's a lot of income that comes in, bunched up in the second quarter, third quarter, something like that. And then I need to pay taxes and wah, 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 it go down. So having that third of all dollars will easily cover sales tax, state tax, licenses, you know, income tax, things like that. So that's a tip. I know there's the profit first where they do all kinds of buckets. That is too confusing for me. I'm the kind of gal that saves receipts in a shoebox for my accounted. Now I save them online, but back in the day it was a shoebox. All right. So now we're moving on to weddings. And I didn't realize it, but I discovered how to network like a boss. And what I mean by that is I got to know the vendors of my brides and grooms, and I developed relationships. I sent them actual prints. Nowadays, with digital, I would still send them prints, not just, throw some digital files at them. I sent them referrals. If my bride liked somebody and I loved working with somebody, I would refer them 3 times. And if they didn't thank me or they never sent anything back, I might drop them off of my list unless I loved what they did. Like there was a cake baker, it's called Extraordinary Desserts, where their cakes were so delicious. And they would never send me work back, but I just wanted a piece of that cake at the wedding. So I would refer them. And also, if you're networking with any genre, weddings or portraits or anything, there is a way to go to networking groups like Chamber of Commerce, BNI, other things that can get you work, but it's not about throwing a bunch of cards in everybody's faces and taking a bunch of cards. It's about building relationships. And it's also about, then we're going to talk about something in a second, but it's also about asking for introductions to people that you could partner with in things like a gift certificate program for their clients, a thank you gift, things like that. And you want to be giving leads too. So, not expecting that the people in the group are necessarily going to hire you because, newsflash, most of the people are not super wealthy that are part of networking groups. Uh, Occasionally there's doctors and dentists and things, but mostly it's people growing and building their businesses. At least that's my experience. All right. Um, and number 2 with weddings, make an assumption that everything is going to be running late and plan your time accordingly so that you're never, never say never, but so that the likelihood of you uh, getting short on time and not being able to do what you've contracted is reduced. That includes telling the, especially the florist and the hair and makeup person, an earlier time that they need to be finished than what is your absolute time. So, like if noon is the time you really need to start the photographs, they need to think that 11 is the time to start because they don't really understand how important it is to have everything wrapped up by, we'll say, 11:30, because then the flowers need to get distributed. They need to get the bride's dress on and so many things. So don't cut it close. One of the things I started doing near the end of my 12 years photographing weddings is I would start my time because maybe I, their package would have 12, not 12 hours, 5 hours. So I would start the 5 hours at the wedding start time, and they could have as much time as they wanted before. So often we would start 3 hours before with the first look and beautiful portraits of the bride and groom, singles of each of them, then the wedding party, and then the immediate family. And then we'd have time for a break. And that made such a difference. All right, number 2. No, number 3 with weddings. If you have thoughts of photographing a wedding but have never done one, volunteer to help photographers who have done weddings for free, not as a second shooter. Uh, if there's a second shooter, support them also, but just as support, carrying equipment, communicating things, helping fluff dresses, just really keeping track of everything going on and making life easier for the photographer. Now, that could turn into a little side hustle of second shooter. Um, but I don't know very many photographers. If you approach them right and when they meet you, you're dressed professionally, uh, which is one of the advantages of joining your local and state professional organizations. Um, but assist and watch. Um, and also with portraits. Uh, I always love to bring an assistant, which is one of my tips. Once I started bringing assistants to my portrait photography sessions, my sales went up because there were things I could do and I had more energy to do them. Um, anywho, work with other people that know what they're doing, that are open, that love to share. All right. Number whatever, three, I think. Yeah. Marketing is always the biggest question, challenge. Oh, how do we get the right people through the door? Um, First of all, it's not about finding magical people that are waiting to give you thousands of dollars. It's about finding people who, when you do your process properly, will be happy to invest well and will love what you do. And so the trick is to find those people that have the resources and would love what you do if you inspire them to invest in that. So, what does that look like? Um, so, finding people through social media is very tricky. If you get 1 out of 10, uh, like I have a coaching client who's an amazing children's photographer, and she does really effective SEO. And she gets maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 that actually book. She gets so many that she's able to, make a living. But she does spend time pre-qualifying people. Um, when people are searching and they look at who shows up, on the first page of Google or whatever, and they look at all the websites and they read everything, they think they know what it's like, what it's going to cost, what to expect, what happens with digital, all of that. And so by the time they get to you, if you're a luxury photographer, it is tricky to convert. It can be done, but you can spend a lot of time, we'll just say kissing frogs, nice people, but possibly would have had the budget, but they already think they know. And so it's hard to have people open up to the possibility that they're going to want to have, for example, for me, art on the walls, books, they're going to invest thousands. But it is important to have your presence out there, to have beautiful website. The goal for me of a website is to get them to call you. So simpler but effective, not giving them so much information uh, that would be a basis for conversation when you first start talking to them. I don't give pricing on websites. I would if I was so busy, my SEO was so effective that I needed to weed people out, then yes, something starting at that kind of thing. Uh, all right. So we want to find a way to pull people to us. And I'm going to use the analogy of fishing, and this is going to be catch and release today. So SEO is like fishing in an area where there's big fish, small fish, fish that don't taste good, um, all kinds of fish. And if you have decent bait, you're going to catch all kinds of fish that you do not want. So you may, using our example, you may want to keep 1 out of 10 away. We're catch and release. You may want to photograph here with 1 out of 10. But if you go places where those bigger fish hang out, then the likelihood that, 1 out of 3 is photo ready. This is a string of fish. So, how do you do that? Where do they hang out? Well, for example, my ideal clients go to charity events, especially the auctions, and they will bid on live auctions. And I usually do a gift certificate that has a money value that will cover a session and a small print, or they can apply that to larger photographic art. And so let's say somebody wins that and I contact them, they contact me. Then I have a conversation with them at that point to discover whether or not we're a great fit. And I have some different pre-qualifying things that, in case we're not a good fit, they may choose to self-select out, but in a nice way. If someone insists on it, I absolutely will do the session, even if I know they're not going to spend a dime. I will give them the red carpet treatment either way. But for example, I collect refundable reservation deposits, usually around 200. And some people will not be comfortable or able to put that down, even though they can get it back if they don't want to spend it. And that does some pre-qualifying. So some of the other places that you can do that are the affiliate marketing, which I mentioned in networking, expos. One of my coaching clients did an expo and she did a drawing, enter to win, and she came home with 60 hot leads and booked 20 of them. And uh, so that's a whole program, but very successful in certain circumstances. All right, what else? Um, Again, have a great website and think of ways to get out in the world and not just sit at home at a computer. I know some people are more introverted. Socially awkward is a new thing, but this is a people business. If you've been listening to this regularly or if it's your first time, I'm, I'm putting things out primarily for people that are going to be doing people photography, not exclusively, but so when you get out in the world, like at a networking event, and you make friends and you give referrals and you find uh, ways to get in front of people that can help you grow your business. Um, it's so powerful. So that's my little marketing. By the way, if you go to my website, lucidumascoaching.com, you'll see a link to my ebook, 10 Big Ideas for Marketing in the Free World. And then I also have a little 7 marketing tips that are a little more specific. So go there if you want more. All right, sales. So if you've been listening, you know that I am the queen of in-person sales. My average client buys 4 to 7 wall portraits. And the reason for that, besides that I have my process step by step, polished up, is I project. I have a movie projector. I'm not sure if you can see it in the back if you're watching this on YouTube. And I have a movie screen and I show the work big, 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 like 6 feet wide. It's very emotional. I sit with my clients, we edit down, and I help them order. And uh, by this time, I have built trust with them so that when I'm guiding them, they surrender to my leadership a lot of times. All right. So a couple reasons for the projector rather than a TV or computer. First of all, you can show it big, both vertical and horizontal. Wait, that's vertical. Vertical and horizontal. And a lot of my best work is going to be vertical. And if you're on a TV that is smaller than, let's say, 10 feet, you're not going to get 6 feet vertical. So, and big has power. All right. And also, I occasionally have taken my projector to a client's home with my pop-up portable movie screen. I've taken it on airplanes, so it is portable. It's also fun to have, but it's very convenient. And one of my tips is I have whiteboards in all kinds of shapes and sizes from 40 by 60, the 40-40 square, skinny. So I can show them what their work is going to look like on the boards, which feels different than on the screen or on the TV. So that's a little hot tip. All right, pricing. So let's see what we're doing here. Um, so first of all, do not price yourself based on what you see online. You don't know if they're successful. You don't know if they're struggling. Some people can have an amazing website and be brand new, and it looks like they're experienced, but they're not. So price yourself in a way that works for you and your goals and your business. How do you do that? So you want to start with the end in mind. So think about uh, within a realistic framework, how much income you want slash need to feel like you're there in your business. So let's say it's 100,000. No, let's say it's 50,000. Well, most people keep a third. It can be 50%, but on the average, it's smart to just think a third of every dollar you bring in because there's so many expenses in this business. Um, Things you don't expect, things you do expect, taxes, equipment, advertising, all the things. Okay, so a third would mean that you need to bring in $150,000 in order to know that you have $50,000 in your real money, real life. So then figure out how many clients you can and want to do in a year. So we'll keep it simple. If you think it's 100, then you need to set up your pricing so that you can almost always sell people $1,500 in products and also set up so that it's also easy for people to invest more because there's going to be some averaging out. Um, and so then look at like $1,500 if you wanted to sell them two wall portraits and some small prints. Uh, the two wall portraits could be $1,200, let's say for 20 by 24 and 11 by 14 combined. And then the 5 by 7s, if you do eight at $50 a piece, which is way too low, but there's your 1,500. So that's how I price. And I don't put it on my website. I do go over it at the consultation. Let's see. So just a couple of little tips on photography, and then I'm about done. I wish someone was online so I could say, what other questions do you have? But feel free to ask me questions if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening. Send me Luci at Luci Dumas 2 or go to my website and ask me questions or post in the, Instagram, wherever. All right. Number one, I will admit I have made this mistake more than once. Do not use equipment you haven't tried out, even if it's rental equipment where they've tested it and you've used that thing over and over. Get familiar with your equipment and make sure it works. And it's easier these days now with digital because what I would have to do is I would have to put a roll of film through that camera and then take it to the lab and wait for that to be processed and such. So you've no excuse for not testing things and not trying them out, several times before you make it something you're depending on. And then kids are my specialty. If I were completely going back to only photographing, but just what I love and not coaching and all the other things I do, um, I would love to just photograph 8-month-olds and 4 and 5-year-olds. Those are my favorite ages. But anywho, um, when possible, plan your sessions around the nap schedules of kids and hopefully the earlier nap schedules. Because, they may nap at 4 in the afternoon and starting at 6, they're going to be tired from the day. Now, if it's a situation like it's a beach portrait, it's more important for me to have good light. But I recommend that the day before the shoot, they have a very low-key day and that everybody gets naps, everybody gets fed. Bring snacks that the kids don't know you have so that when their energy goes down a little bit, you can have a little break. Plan lots of time. Again, going back to the beginning, call this a callback with weddings. With portraits, if I know the sun's going down, like right now it's going down at 7:15. So I'm going to meet with my clients at 5:15. And we may have to wait around, but we may have a little bit of misty overcast right away, and I can start the session, and then it gets this thick marine layer, and it's ugh, gross. So I never know at a place like the beach when the light's going to be good. Um, when it's going to, anyway. So also, we never know when someone's going to not find us. And even though we all have, our phones and our cars that have GPS, sometimes they don't remember what we said. Like there's a spot in La Jolla where I like to meet, but I've had people that thought they remembered it was somewhere else. So if they're half an hour late, I've still got plenty of time. So just don't squeeze. And I guess I'll just leave you with this other thing that I've always done. I don't like pre-plan exactly what I'm going to do, but I spend time pre-visualizing. So I don't know if you can imagine the difference, but like early on in my career, I would go to a location and I would really kind of plan out some things I'm going to do. And then when I got there, because I love photographing with natural light, good natural light, not stand in a field in an overcast day, but finding pockets of shade. And, that's another topic for another day. Um, but I would get there and the light would be completely different. So there might be shade where there was none before, or, because I love shade, it might be so overcast, there's no shade. So I would scout the location with all kinds of contingencies in mind. Also, people might show up and you're thinking, oh, it's a family of four, and you kind of picture it in your mind at this spot. And it turns out, I don't know, dad is 6'5" and 400 pounds, and mom is 5'2" and barely 100 pounds soaking wet. And one kid's little and one kid's tall. And so, without knowing the shapes and sizes, we can't fully sketch out in our mind. But I always give myself some creative imagining time before a session. So, one of my award-winning images, which is right above my head if you're watching, um, that was something that I built up to, that I had a mom and a dad and a teenage daughter, and I pre-visualized a silhouette with them holding hands looking at dad. And then someone saw that, and then I did a family of 6. And then someone saw that and they said, can you do all of us? So, now it's a regular part of my repertoire, but it came from using my imagination. So I think that's it for today. I hope you're enjoying the summer or whatever season you happen to be in when you listen to this. And thank you for subscribing. Thank you for telling your friends. And I'm always looking for great guests. So get in touch if you know somebody that you want to suggest for my show, or if you've got something to share and you'd love to be on the show, I would love that too. All righty, that's it for now. Bye.